Right. Let's dive into a real classic, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
the one with the creature, the
Yep.
bolts, the whole shebang.
Right.
But we're going deeper than the pop culture stuff here.
Definitely.
Our source material is a 1994 edition of the novel. And let me tell you, it's way more than just a spooky story.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely.
One of the things that makes this book so unique is how it's structured.
Interesting.
Imagine reading someone's personal letters,
Okay.
and through those letters, you uncover this whole intricate story.
Wow.
That's Frankenstein. A series of letters nested within each other.
Okay.
Each one revealing a different perspective on the events.
So we're not just getting one side of the story.
Exactly.
We're getting multiple layers, which adds a whole other dimension to the reading experience, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And as you delve deeper into these letters, you start to uncover some really powerful themes.
Interesting.
Ambition, isolation, what it means to play God, and the nature of good and evil. It makes you think about these big questions in a whole new light.
So it all kicks off with letters.
Yeah.
From Robert Walton, this explorer, who's obsessed with reaching the North Pole.
Yeah.
Talk about ambition.
Right.
I mean, this guy is facing brutal Russian winters, meticulously planning his expedition, all for the sake of scientific glory. Really sets the stage for this exploration of the human drive to push boundaries, even at a great cost.
And it's not just the physical challenges that Walton is facing, it's the emotional ones too.
Okay.
He writes about this deep loneliness, this longing for a friend who understands his ambitions.
Right.
It makes you wonder, is reaching the North Pole worth sacrificing human connection?
Yeah, good question. And then things take a turn toward the strange.
Okay.
Walton's ship
Yeah.
is trapped in the Arctic ice, when out of nowhere, this massive human-like figure appears,
Wow.
just trekking across the frozen wasteland.
Oh, wow.
It's such a striking image, and you're immediately left wondering, what is this creature? Where did it come from?
Right. And the mystery deepens when the creature actually stalks and questions Walton about his destination.
Really?
It's a small detail, but it hints at an intelligence, a capacity for thought that we wouldn't expect from a monster.
Interesting.
And it's this element of surprise that keeps you hooked.
Talk about a plot twist. Then, as if things weren't intriguing enough, Walton rescues this frail, despairing man from the ice, Victor Frankenstein.
Right.
And you can tell right away, this guy's carrying some serious baggage.
He's definitely haunted by something.
Yes.
At first, Frankenstein is reluctant to share his story.
Okay.
But eventually, he opens up to Walton, promising him a tale of disasters.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, he doesn't disappoint.
So we shift from Walton's letters
Mm-hmm.
to Frankenstein's narration.
Okay.
And it starts with his childhood in Geneva. It's like stepping into a completely different world.
Interesting.
He talks about his loving family, his fascination with natural philosophy as a young boy, and this idyllic life that's about to take a very dark turn.
What's interesting is that even as a child, Frankenstein shows this rebellious streak.
Oh, really?
He's drawn to these forbidden areas of knowledge, like the writings of alchemists like Cornelius Agrippa and Paracelsus. He's always pushing the boundaries of what's considered acceptable, even then.
It's like foreshadowing.
Yeah.
This hunger for knowledge, this willingness to go against the grain, it definitely sets the stage for what's to come.
Right.
And this drive only intensifies when he heads off to Ingolstadt University.
That's where he encounters these two very different professors,
Okay.
M. Krempe and M. Waldman.
Okay.
Krempe is all about modern science, very dismissive of Frankenstein's interest in ancient alchemy.
Interesting.
But Waldman, he sees the value in those old traditions.
Right.
He understands that even the wildest theories of the past can contribute to scientific breakthroughs.
I see. So it's Waldman who really sparks Frankenstein's passion for unlocking the secrets of life and death. He becomes obsessed with this idea, isolates himself from his loved ones, and spends every waking moment consumed by his research.
And you can almost feel the intensity of Frankenstein's pursuit as you read.
Yeah.
He's working feverishly, neglecting his health, his relationships, everything.
Wow.
It's a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked ambition and how it can consume you entirely.
And then comes the moment of creation. After months of tireless work, Frankenstein brings his creature to life. But the triumph he expected is replaced with instant horror.
Think about it. Frankenstein had this vision in his head, this idealized being he was trying to create.
Right.
But when faced with the reality of his creation, he's completely repulsed.
Yeah.
The creature's appearance is grotesque, and it shatters Frankenstein's illusions of playing God.
Wow.
It forces him to confront the unintended consequences of his actions.
It's like that moment when a dream turns into a nightmare. Frankenstein is so horrified that he abandons his creation, runs away, and tries to forget about the whole thing.
That's what they say. You can't run from your past. The creature is out there. And Frankenstein's actions have set in motion a chain of events that he can no longer control.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
And that's where we'll leave off for now. But trust me, things are about to get even more intense. Welcome back. Last time we left off, with Frankenstein abandoning his creation, consumed by horror and guilt.
Right.
Now the creature's out in the world.
Alone.
And facing a whole new set of challenges.
That's where the creature's story really takes center stage.
Okay.
Remember those nested letters we talked about?
Yeah.
Well, now we hear directly from the creature.
Interesting.
As he recounts his experiences after being abandoned.
So it's quite a shift in perspective.
Definitely.
We go from Frankenstein's scientific ambition and internal struggle to the creature's raw, visceral experience of the world.
And it's through the creature's own words that we start to see him not just as a monster, but as a being with thoughts, feelings, and a yearning for connection.
Yeah.
It makes you question those easy assumptions we often make about those who are different.
One of the first things the creature describes is this intense sensory overload.
Wow.
He's experiencing the world for the first time, and everything is new and overwhelming.
I see.
He talks about light, sounds, smells, all these sensations that we take for granted.
It's fascinating how Shelley captures that sense of awe and confusion. You can almost feel the creature's struggle to make sense of his surroundings, to understand his place in this strange new world.
He's like a child learning to walk and talk, but with the added burden of being physically different.
Yeah.
And immediately judged for his appearance.
Yeah.
It's heartbreaking to see how he's constantly met with fear and rejection.
Exactly. Imagine trying to connect with people, to express your needs and desires, but being met with terror and hostility.
Right.
It's a powerful reminder of the importance of empathy and understanding, especially towards those who might appear different from us.
The creature's journey takes him through forests, villages, and eventually to this abandoned hovel, where he observes a family living in a nearby cottage. It's through watching them that he begins to learn about language, emotions, and the complexities of human relationships.
It's like he's getting a crash course in humanity from a distance.
Right.
He becomes fascinated by their kindness, their love for one another, and their simple way of life.
Yeah.
It reinforces that deep longing for connection that he's been carrying with him since his creation.
And what's even more remarkable is that he starts teaching himself to read and speak by observing them and studying discarded books.
Wow.
Talk about a self-motivated learner.
Yeah.
He's so determined to understand this world and find his place in it.
It shows this incredible capacity for learning and growth, and it makes his rejection by the family even more tragic.
Right.
He builds up this hope that maybe, just maybe, they'll accept him, despite his appearance.
He even tries to help them out, gathering firewood and performing chores in secret.
Oh, wow.
You can tell he's genuinely trying to earn their trust and acceptance. But when he finally reveals himself, their reaction is pure terror.
It's a crushing blow.
Yeah.
He's been so careful, so hopeful, and yet his appearance completely overshadows his good intentions.
It's really sad.
It really drives home the point that society often judges based on outward appearances rather than inner qualities.
This rejection sends the creature into a spiral of despair and rage.
Yeah.
He realizes that he's been condemned to a life of solitude, forever ostracized because of his appearance.
Yeah.
It's in this moment of anguish that he confronts Victor, demanding that he create a female companion for him.
Oh, wow.
It's a desperate plea, a last attempt to find someone who understands his pain and loneliness.
Right.
He promises Victor that if he creates a companion for him, they will vanish into the wilderness, never to bother humanity again.
And Victor, torn between his fear of creating another monster and a sliver of empathy for the creature's plight, actually agrees.
Really?
But you can sense that he's not fully committed to this idea.
I see.
He's haunted by doubts and fears about the potential consequences of his actions.
It's a really complex ethical dilemma.
Yeah.
On one hand, Victor understands the creature's need for companionship.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, he's terrified of unleashing another potentially dangerous being upon the world.
And that internal conflict really comes to a head. As Victor travels with his friend, Henry Clerval,
Okay.
he's supposed to be gathering information and resources to create this female companion. But he's consumed by anxiety and doubt.
Right.
He even starts having nightmares about these two creatures reproducing and creating a whole race of beings that could threaten humanity.
It's a classic example of the unintended consequences of scientific ambition.
Exactly.
Victor is grappling with the realization that his actions could have far-reaching implications that he hadn't fully considered.
Right.
And it ultimately leads into a devastating decision.
What's that?
He destroys his work on the female creature, breaking his promise to the creature.
Oh, wow.
It's a moment of both courage and cruelty. He's trying to protect humanity, but at the cost of condemning the creature to eternal isolation.
You can imagine how the creature reacts to this betrayal.
I bet he's furious.
He's been watching Victor, patiently waiting for the fulfillment of his promise, only to see his hopes dashed once again.
It's so sad.
And this time, his rage and despair turn into a chilling act of revenge.
Oh no. What does he do?
He murders Victor's friend, Henry Clerval.
Oh, wow.
A truly devastating act that plunges Victor into even deeper despair.
The creature then vows to be with Victor on his wedding night.
Oh my God.
The promise that hangs over Victor like a dark cloud. It's clear that the stakes have been raised, and the creature is no longer content with simply being left alone. He wants Victor to suffer as he has suffered.
And so the cycle of revenge continues, driven by pain, isolation, and a profound misunderstanding between creator and creation.
Right.
It's a tragic reminder of how fear and prejudice can lead to violence and destruction.
We left off with that chilling promise. The creature vowing to be with Victor on his wedding night. Talk about a dark cloud hanging over a supposedly joyous occasion.
Really emphasizes how deep the creature's rage and despair run. He's gone from wanting connection to inflicting the same abandonment and isolation that he's experienced. It's a tragic turning point.
Yeah, it really is. Despite the looming threat, Victor decides to go ahead with the wedding.
Oh, wow.
Believing that his death is inevitable. He doesn't want to cause Elizabeth and his father any more pain by putting off their happiness.
So it speaks to Victor's sense of responsibility, even in the midst of his fear and grief.
Right.
He's trying to protect his loved ones the only way he knows how, by accepting his fate.
But that doesn't make the wedding night any less terrifying. Victor's consumed with anxiety, constantly on guard, just waiting for the creature to strike.
And it creates this incredibly suspenseful atmosphere. You know, as you're reading, you know what's coming, but you're hoping against hope that maybe, just maybe, this tragedy can be avoided.
Yeah, but sadly it can't. The creature makes good on his promise, murdering Elizabeth on their wedding night.
Oh, wow.
It's a devastating blow, stripping Victor everything he holds dear.
This act of revenge marks a complete break in the bond between creator and creation.
Yeah.
A descent into pure hatred and violence, fueled by all those years of pain and rejection.
Victor's completely consumed by grief and rage at this point. He dedicates the rest of his life to hunting the creature down, chasing him across continents, driven by a thirst for vengeance. That mirrors the creature's own rage.
It's a relentless pursuit, kind of like Walton's ambition from the beginning. Both men driven to their limits, pushing further and further into dangerous territory. It makes you wonder, is Victor really any different from the creature at this point?
That's a good question. Has Victor, in his pursuit of revenge, become the very monster he's trying to destroy?
That's left for us to consider. It really drives home one of the core themes of the book, that blurring of the lines between good and evil, monster and man.
This chase eventually leads them both to the Arctic, where Victor comes across Walton's ship. Trapped in the ice, he shares his tragic tale with Walton, warning him of the dangers of unchecked ambition and the terrible consequences of playing God.
It's a cautionary tale within a cautionary tale.
Exactly.
Victor's story serves as this warning to Walton, who's on the similar path, of relentless pursuit. Makes you think about the choices we make and how our actions can lead to unforeseen and devastating outcomes.
Weakened by his pursuit and the harsh conditions, Victor dies aboard Walton's ship.
Oh, wow.
But before he takes his last breath, he urges Walton to keep hunting the creature, to destroy it, and rid the world of the menace that he created.
It's a really powerful moment, full of pathos and ambiguity.
Yes.
Victor dies, consumed by revenge, passing that burden on to Walton.
Right.
It leaves Walton with a huge moral dilemma. Should he continue the cycle of violence or choose a different path?
And just when you think the story's over, the creature appears one last time on Walton's ship, drawn to the scene of his creator's death.
It's chilling, but also a strangely moving encounter.
It is.
The creature mourns Victor's death, expressing this complex mix of remorse and grief, even a sense of liberation.
Wow. He admits to the horrors he's committed, claiming they were driven by the pain of rejection and the agony of his eternal solitude.
Yeah.
He tells Walton that he plans to end his own life, build a funeral pyre, and disappear into the Arctic wilderness.
It's a haunting ending, leaves us with more questions than answers.
It really does.
Was the creature inherently evil? Or was he a product of his circumstances? Can we ever truly escape the consequences of our actions?
And that's the brilliance of Frankenstein. It doesn't give you easy answers or make simple moral judgments.
Right.
It forces us to confront the complexities of human nature, the power of creation, and the responsibility we all have for our actions, and the ripple effects they have on the world.
It's a story that stays with you long after you finish reading it.
It does.
Making you think about our capacity for both good and evil, and the importance of empathy and understanding in a world where difference is often met with fear and rejection.
So there you have it, a deep dive into Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. It's a story that continues to resonate with readers, centuries after it was written, offering a timeless exploration of ambition, loss, the nature of humanity, and the enduring question of what it really means to be a monster.
Hopefully this deep dive has given you what you need to not just read the book, but to really understand it and come to your own conclusions.
Until next time, keep those minds engaged and never stop exploring.